Welcome to History's Mysterious Minds, the audio podcast that delves into the strange and often unsettling corners of the past. Each episode, we explore not just the minds of forgotten visionaries, outcasts and geniuses, but also the legends, mysteries, and half-remembered stories they left behind. From shadowy inventors and mystics to haunted manuscripts and whispered folklore, we unravel the obsessions that shaped them, the truths they chased, and the secrets that still echo through history's darkest halls. Episode 1, Étienne-Gaspard Robert, the Ghost Showman of Paris. You're sitting in the ruins of an old Capuchin monastery. The year is 1798. Paris is cold and silent, save for the rustling of cloaks and a distant bell tolling midnight. The revolution has ended. The guillotine has quieted. But death still hangs in the air, heavy and unspoken. The doors creak shut behind you. The room darkens. Then, from the darkness, a glowing skull appears, floating, growing, smiling. And then, the ghost of Marie Antoinette drifts into view, her head cradled in her arms. She opens her mouth to speak, and disappears. This was no ghost. This was Phantasmagoria, and the man who summoned it, a painter, a physicist, a balloonist, and perhaps history's first horror director. His name was Étienne-Gaspard Robert, but you might know him by his stage name, Robertson. And tonight we walk into the shadows of his brilliant, bizarre mind. To understand Robertson, we have to go back, not just to the French Revolution, but to the beginning of the Enlightenment's darker side. Born in Liège in 1763, Robertson was a child of contradiction. He studied philosophy and physics, but also fine art. He was fascinated by light, how it bends, reflects, moves, and by how that light could deceive the eye. Even as a young man, he was experimenting with lenses and lanterns. But his curiosity wasn't limited to science. He also had a flair for the theatrical and a fascination with the supernatural, not because he believed in it, but because he knew how badly other people wanted to believe. Robertson came of age during a period when the rational world was colliding violently with the spiritual. People no longer trusted kings or priests, but they still craved meaning in death, justice in the afterlife, or signs from the beyond. Science had taken the place of religion, but the ghosts never left. And Robertson, he saw a way to bring them back, on demand. Let's talk about the Phantasmagoria. The word itself is theatrical, derived from phantasm and agora, a gathering of ghosts. But what Robertson created wasn't just a magic show. It was immersive horror, decades, if not centuries ahead of its time. He used a device known as the magic lantern, an invention that had existed since the 1600s, used mostly for educational projections. But Robertson didn't want to educate. He wanted to terrify. So he re-engineered the lantern. He mounted it on wheels, added mirrors and lenses, painted his own grotesque images on glass slides. Then he projected them through smoke and onto semi-transparent screens. The effect: apparitions that moved, grew, and faded. Phantoms that felt alive. Sometimes he even placed the lantern behind the screen and walked it forward as he projected, making the ghost appear to charge at the audience. Imagine seeing that in pitch darkness in a ruined monastery. No CGI, no wires, just raw optical illusion and expert timing. People screamed. Some fainted. Robertson's shows were so intense that he was required to give medical disclaimers before beginning. No pregnant women, no highly nervous persons, and he wasn't kidding. This wasn't cheap entertainment. It was psychological warfare disguised as spectacle. But here's where Robertson becomes even more fascinating. After scaring the audience out of their wits, he would often step forward and reveal the trick. Yes, he'd explain the lenses, the angles, the movement of light. He'd demonstrate how the illusion worked. Because for Robertson, the fear was only part of the show. The revelation was the punchline. He didn't want people to walk away afraid. He wanted them to walk away thinking. That perhaps was his greatest illusion, making people believe they were watching the dead rise, only to teach them that it was their own minds that had betrayed them. But Robertson wasn't just a showman. He also held public lectures on optics and perception. He experimented with early aviation and became one of the first people to fly a hydrogen balloon over Vienna. He wrote scientific treatises, designed mechanical toys, and painted in his spare time. He was one of those rare polymaths who defied categorization. He wasn't trying to be a magician. He was trying to be a philosopher of illusion. And like all philosophers, he was wrestling with a very big question. What is real? Is it what the eye sees? What the brain believes? Or what the audience chooses to accept? Robertson's timing couldn't have been better or more dangerous. Post-revolutionary France was a society on edge, traumatized by years of public executions, war, famine, and chaos. Many still believed in spirits, especially the spirits of the unjustly killed. So when Robertson conjured Marie Antoinette or Louis XVI, it wasn't just spooky, it was political. Authorities became suspicious. Was he summoning ghosts or inciting unrest? In 1803, he was forced to submit his lanterns to the police for inspection. He passed, of course. There were no spirits, just mirrors and oil lamps. But it was clear, Robertson was playing with fire. The fire of fear, of grief, of mass psychology. And the state was watching. By the 1810s, public taste shifted. The world was moving on to photography, steam engines, industrialization. Robertson's shows faded, and with them, his fame. He died in 1837, mostly forgotten. But here's what stayed behind. The moving image, the transformation of light into story, the realization that fear, when controlled, could become entertainment, sound familiar. A century later, filmmakers like Georges Méliès would pick up where Robertson left off, using film to create dreamlike, terrifying worlds. And long after that, directors like Hitchcock, Carpenter, and Jordan Peele would use fear not just to shock, but to say something deeper about society. In a way, they all owe a debt to the man who projected ghosts through smoke in a ruined Parisian crypt. So what do we make of Étienne-Gaspard Robert? He wasn't a fraud. He wasn't a magician. He wasn't just a scientist or artist. He was a liminal figure, standing at the threshold between reason and wonder, truth and illusion, life and death. And maybe, just maybe, he wasn't trying to trick us at all. Maybe he was trying to remind us that the most powerful ghosts are the ones we already carry with us. Thank you for joining me on this journey into one of history's mysterious minds. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to follow, like or subscribe wherever you're listening, and leave a review to help others discover the strange and fascinating stories the past has tried to keep hidden. Have a story you'd like us to explore, or a figure from history whose life still raises questions? Send it our way. We're always looking for the next mystery waiting in the shadows. Until next time, stay curious, keep questioning, and remember, sometimes the darkest corners of history hold the stories that refuse to be forgotten.